The maps were wrong. The realization punched Captain Gilbert Ellman in the gut that autumn morning in 1942. His jeep skidded to a stop on the ridge. Sbeitla lay just ahead, but it was the front door, not the back, like he had meticulously planned. Dozens of camouflaged tanks sat hull down behind trenches and sandbagged machine gun nests, barrels already covering the road. Behind him, 1,000 miles of desert and empty fuel cans. He had no armor, no air cover, no support. His column was nothing but jeeps with .50 cals and a few tank destroyers rolling tin cans against a fortress. Ellman weighed the gauges, the gun line, and the open ground. If they turned back, they'd stall in the dunes. If they sat still, the Italians would pounce on them. Only one play left. Hit them now. Ellman barked the order. Engines howled. The jeeps lunged downhill. But something was off. No return fire. Ellman frowned as he looked at the defending line closely. The Italians, were they having lunch? Captain Gilbert Ellman's Company B had been hurled across North Africa well ahead of the main torch force. After 6 punishing days and 1,000 miles of bomb-scarred roads from Oran to the Tunisian interior, they arrived in Tunisia as America's tip of the spear, a green unit feeling for its footing against a veteran German foe. Company B was a tank destroyer unit trained to intercept enemy armor, not to take towns or conduct unsupported assaults. But theory had already collided with battlefield necessity. In the early chaos of the Tunisian campaign, field commanders often had little to go on but instinct. And Captain Gilbert A. Ellman knew better than to wait. Ellman's orders were maddeningly vague. Take Gafsa by dawn. He had no infantry, no artillery support, and no reliable intelligence. All he had were 12 tank destroyers, 2 aging French armored cars, and a borrowed reconnaissance platoon. At first light, a little relief washed over Ellman's men when they witnessed 2 P-38 Lightnings scream across the horizon, strafing the western outskirts of Gafsa. They weren't all alone after all. Ellman rolled forward immediately, engines roaring as the company charged across open terrain. German snipers opened fire from rooftops and windows. Company B responded with 75mm high-explosive shells, reducing buildings to rubble in seconds. The road ahead was a trap. One of the French armored cars hit a mine, flipping skyward in a fireball. Another blast ripped apart the second car a moment later. Despite the losses, the 2 lead platoons pushed forward, flanking to the north and south in hopes of skirting more explosives. Out of nowhere, a young boy, maybe 14, came running through the dust with his hands raised. A jittery American serviceman almost shot him before Ellman lowered the barrel of his rifle. Barefoot, wild-eyed, and speaking rapid-fire French, the boy approached Captain Ellman's vehicle, waving a ragged handkerchief. He shouted, "Allemands, là-bas!" Germans, there. Ellman stared for a moment. "Show us." With no hesitation, the boy led a column of American half-tracks through narrow alleyways and groves of olive trees. He pointed out sniper nests, machine gun positions, and trench lines the Germans had carved just outside town. At each turn, his warnings were confirmed. Fire came from the very places he had indicated. The boy's knowledge of the terrain and German dispositions turned what could have been a costly slog into a rapid, surgical assault. American crews fired over his head, leveling resistance block by block. By midday, the town was theirs. Over 300 Arab auxiliaries, armed by the Germans, were disarmed. The last pockets of resistance were cleared. Gafsa, a strategic junction in central Tunisia, was now under American control. These Germans were not so hard to beat after all, at least when taken by surprise. Ellman ordered tank destroyers to secure the town's roads. Then word came, a German armored column was heading straight for them from the southeast. Ellman didn't wait for the enemy to reach Gafsa. He was not about to be ambushed. With news of a German armored column approaching fast, he made a snap decision: meet them before they hit the town. It was classic tank destroyer doctrine: move fast, strike first. Company B wasn't designed for offensive pursuit, but waiting in Gafsa's narrow streets would be suicide. He organized the column. The reconnaissance platoon led the way, sweeping ahead along the road to El Guitar, followed by a heavy platoon of M3s, his command group, a second heavy platoon, and the light M6s, protecting the rear. They covered the 10 miles to El Guitar quickly, eyes scanning for signs of the enemy. It was late afternoon, and the shadows were stretching. Just outside the town, the scouts crested a low ridge and froze. Below, sprawled across a second ridge, sat the German tanks. The recon jeeps bolted. Enemy shells cracked open the sky. One driver cut too hard, flipping his vehicle and throwing its crew into a ditch. They scrambled out, crawling under fire, and somehow reached the American lines unscathed. Ellman struck instantly. He split his platoons. One moved left of the road through scrubland, the other flanked right through the oasis. The German tanks, 10 in total, turned to flank the town, only to run directly into the path of the Americans. The first shots rang out. 4 German tanks exploded within minutes, hit broadside by the 75mm guns of the M3s. The remaining 6 tanks wheeled and retreated, limping down the road they had come on. The Americans pounded them with shells, hitting several, but the survivors disappeared over the horizon. 3 days later, they were found abandoned and out of fuel. Company B returned to Gafsa by nightfall. They had just survived 2 firefights in 24 hours and returned to Gafsa with their gear rattling and nerves frayed. The sun was barely down when a runner arrived with new orders. The Germans had taken Sbeitla, 120 miles to the north. French forces had been overrun, supplies captured, 2 infantry companies gone. The only unit remotely close enough to respond was Company B. If they counterattacked now and hit the defenses from behind, they would collapse like a house of cards. The orders were as vague as ever: do something about it, but it was clear enough. By midnight, after a rushed refuel and 2 hours of broken sleep, Company B was back on the move, first to Feriana, then onto a dirt road threading toward Kasserine. They rolled in tight formation, reconnaissance jeeps up front, a heavy platoon close behind, Ellman's command group in the center, and the rest staggered to the flanks, weapons loaded, eyes peeled. Every tree, every building, every dip in the terrain was treated like a potential ambush. Rain began to fall, slicking the roads and fogging windshields. Just outside Kasserine, locals told them the enemy had passed through, but fallen back toward Sbeitla. They were close now. 10 miles out, they hit a wrecked bridge over a deep ravine. The recon troops fanned out and found a passable ford nearby. As they crossed, they realized they were about to hit Sbeitla from the southwest, as marked by their maps. But the maps were wrong. They were approaching the town from the northwest. That's when it happened. The lead jeeps crested a ridge, and there it was, Sbeitla, laid out below like a trap sprung too late. Camouflaged Italian tanks, trench lines and machine gun nests ringed the town's orchard, just off the road. They had driven straight into the main Axis defensive line. In 99 out of 100 scenarios, this would be instant death. But fate blinked. The Italians were eating lunch. The alarm went off a second too late. The Italians took precious seconds to drop their plates, grab their rifles, and mount their tanks. That was all Ellman needed. Shells began flying, 47mm rounds slamming into the rocky soil. The recon jeeps peeled off as gunfire tore through the trees. One half-track at the crest opened up with a .50 caliber machine gun, cutting a curtain of lead between the retreating scouts and the orchard. Ellman's response was brilliant. He split his force. One platoon flanked left to the ridge and laid down, suppressing fire. Another pushed toward the town's Roman arch, using bounding maneuvers, leapfrogging one section while the other covered them. The recon jeeps circled back, using their machine guns to mark targets, tracer rounds ricocheting off Italian tanks, guiding the M3 gunners in a spectacular tactician's wet dream. The orchard turned into a shooting gallery. Tank after tank lit up, flames rising through the olive trees. The Italian infantry broke and ran. German troops, sensing collapse, abandoned the field in trucks, heading northeast. Only one American vehicle was hit. A crewman was wounded. A medic sprinted forward, leaping a trench, only to land among dozens of Italian soldiers huddled in the mud. They surrendered to him on the spot. Captain Ellman ordered the tank destroyers forward. The M3s rolled into Sbeitla, turrets swiveling at every intersection. Machine gun nests opened fire from hidden corners. Company B answered with roaring, suppressive fire. In some cases, the half-tracks simply drove straight through enemy positions, crushing sandbag emplacements and scattering stunned defenders. The resistance, already shaken by the destruction in the orchard, collapsed quickly. Italian troops fled, many throwing down their rifles mid-run. Others emerged from buildings with their hands raised. By the end of the sweep, over 100 prisoners had been taken. Ellman wasn't finished. He dispatched a platoon to hold the northeast road and sent a motorcycle scout racing to locate a paratrooper company that was supposed to be following behind. Scouts swept the outskirts, searching for signs of a counterattack. They found none. By dusk, the American flag flew over Sbeitla. 2 days earlier, Company B had been a support element. Now, they were battle-tested victors. They were told to return to Kasserine. And finally, they slept. They had covered 400 miles in 2 days, fought in 3 engagements, and destroyed 15 Axis tanks. They had taken over 400 prisoners and secured multiple towns, all without infantry support, armor, or reliable intelligence. Only one man had been wounded. Later, Ellman would reflect on the operation with a mixture of pride and disbelief. We were raw, but raw meant fast, and fast meant we hit them before they were ready. Inexperience gave us speed. Speed gave us victory. For a unit built to wait in reserve, Company B had charged into history.